Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack the most interesting reads and cut through that constant tech noise.
And there's a lot of it these days.
Oh, definitely. If you've been online at all, you know technology, especially AI, it's just moving incredibly fast. Feels like major changes happen, every week?
It really does. It's an extraordinary time seeing how these shifts are, reshaping not just industries, but how we all function, really.
Totally. And today's deep dive is particularly interesting. It's curated by one of our listeners, the Pythonist programmer.
Ah.
So, as a software engineering consultant, you've picked out your most compelling reads from this past week, July 28th to August 1st, 2025. This whole session, it's basically for you.
Okay, great. So our mission here is to dive into these sources you flagged. We're talking the changing world of LLMs, the real nuts and bolts of AI coding.
Right.
The kind of complex ways tech influences society, even the really surprising effects AI is having on digital content and relationships.
Exactly. We're going to pull up the key insights, give you that shortcut to being really clued in on all this cutting edge stuff. So let's jump in.
Let's do it. So first up, foundation models. These aren't just about generative AI anymore. They're actually redefining computing itself.
And the market numbers really back that up, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. The spending data is pretty wild.
Yeah, I saw that. Model API spending went from, $3.5 billion to $8.4 billion in just 6 months.
Yep. More than doubled.
Wow.
And the key thing here isn't just developing the models. It's the big swing towards production inference.
Inference, meaning actually using the models day to day.
Exactly. The sources say 74% of startups and nearly 49% of big companies report most of their compute now as inference-driven.
Okay.
So these models are out there running, doing real work, not just sitting in a lab being trained.
That's a really significant shift. So in the market itself, who's actually leading this charge? We're hearing Anthropic has made a huge splash in the enterprise LLM space.
Huge is right. It's been incredibly fast. Think about it. End of 2023, OpenAI had 50% of the enterprise market.
Right. They were dominant.
Today, you're down to 25%. Anthropic blew past them, captured 32%.
32% already.
Yep. Then you've got Google at 20%, Meta's Llama holding 9%, and DeepSeek with just 1%.
That's a massive shakeup.
It really is. And for you, Pythonist programmer advising clients on tech choices, this isn't just about who's winning, it's about why. Which models are delivering real, verifiable value for businesses? That's the core question.
Okay, so what is the why? What's driving Anthropic's rapid rise, unseating OpenAI so quickly in the enterprise world?
Well, the sources point to basically three main things. First off, code generation. It's clearly become AI's first, breakout hit in the enterprise.
Makes sense. Developers love coding tool.
Totally. And Claude became the go-to. It grabbed 42% market share for code generation. OpenAI's down at 21%.
Double OpenAI's share. Wow.
Yeah. And this isn't just about one tool. It's created a whole $1.9 billion ecosystem. Think AI IDEs, enterprise coding agents. It's enabling completely new categories. Shows a real focus on practical, useful AI.
Okay, code generation is one. What else? You mentioned pushing beyond just pre-training, especially with internet data maybe becoming a bottleneck.
Right. That brings us to the second factor, reinforcement learning with verifiers, or RLVR.
RLVR. Oh.
It's a post-training thing. And it works especially well in areas where you can actually verify the output, like coding.
Because code either works or it doesn't, more or less.
Pretty much. It's this idea that just throwing more raw data isn't the only path forward for AI smarts. RLVR lets models refine themselves based on verifiable feedback, getting things right or wrong. It's like how an engineer iterates. This self-correction is really pushing the intelligence boundary.
Interesting. And the third driver, something about agents.
Yes, the year of agents, as some are calling it. This is about training models not just to respond, but to use tools.
Use tools. Like
Thinking step by step, reasoning things out, pulling in external info via something called MCP, Model Context Protocol. It makes them way more effective for complex, real-world tasks.
So it's less about a single answer, more about the AI interacting with other systems to solve a problem.
Exactly. It can talk to different tools, different data sources in standard way. Kind of like how software components interact already. It's a much more dynamic approach.
Okay, so closed source models like Anthropic's are consolidating. What about open source? How's that playing out in enterprise?
Well, that's actually kind of stalled. Adoption's flattened out, even dipped slightly to 13% from 19% 6 months ago.
Really? Even with the benefits like customization and cost?
Yeah. The main issue seems to be that persistent performance gap. Open source models are still lagging, maybe 9 to 12 months behind the closed source leaders. Plus, they can be technically complex to manage.
So enterprises are prioritizing performance above all else.
It definitely looks that way. Builders are consistently jumping to the frontier models, the best performing ones, even when older models get way cheaper, like 10x cheaper year over year.
That's telling.
Yeah, something like 66% upgraded within their current provider. Only 11% actually switched vendors. It shows they want that cutting edge, even if it means sticking with a provider and not necessarily grabbing the absolute cheapest option.
And this constant push for performance means more compute power needed, right? Which leads to building bigger infrastructure.
Precisely, which is fueling massive expansion projects. OpenAI, for instance, is making a really interesting move in Europe.
Ah, yes, the Stargate Norway project. Tell us about that.
Right? It's their first big data center push in Europe, a joint venture with NewScale Global Holdings and Aker up in northern Norway, near Narvik.
And why Norway specifically?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Norway has tons of hydropower, relatively low local electricity demand, and because of that, really low energy prices.
Right.
Plus, and this is key, it's 100% renewable energy. For these incredibly power-hungry AI operations, that's a huge advantage environmentally and economically.
And this is happening while their U.S. Stargate project is maybe facing some headwinds.
Yeah, the sources mentioned the U.S. project has apparently struggled to get off the ground, and they've had to sharply scale back near-term plans. So this push into Norway really underscores how critical finding the right location with the right energy setup is for building out this next generation of AI infrastructure.
Okay, so we've seen the huge market shifts, the infrastructure build out. Let's bring it back down to earth a bit. What does all this mean for engineers like you, Pythonist programmer, actually using AI day to day?
Yeah, let's get to the practical side of things.
This connects nicely to a piece by Aaron Breathorst. He revisits that classic idea, choose boring technology, by Dan McKinley. Breathorst argues it's actually more important now with AI coding assistance.
That's a really insightful take. His main point is about the danger of unknowns.
How?
Well, these AI tools are scarily good at generating code that looks plausible for pretty much any tech stack you ask for.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if you don't actually know that stack well, maybe you're learning 2 or 3 new things at once, you just can't properly vet what the AI gives you.
Ah, so you can't tell if it's good code or just plausible nonsense.
Exactly. Breathorst calls it cargo culting times 2,356. You end up trusting code you don't understand, which can lead to AI hallucinations sneaking in, using deprecated APIs, security flaws, subtle performance bugs, all sorts of problems.
So the takeaway is AI is a powerful tool, a force multiplier, but only if you actually understand the underlying tech. If you know Rails or JavaScript well, like you do, you can fact check the AI.
Precisely. It becomes incredibly powerful then, because you can guide it, correct it, leverage its speed without blindly trusting it.
So what's the practical advice here? How should you approach new tech with AI?
Breathorst suggests a simple test. When looking at a new technology, ask yourself, could I confidently review AI-generated code for this?
Good heuristic.
Yeah. As a consultant, you're always evaluating tools. So if the answer is no, maybe that new tech isn't ready for your mission-critical projects yet, especially if you're relying heavily on AI assistance.
Makes sense.
And if you do decide to learn something new, really invest the time to understand it deeply. Don't try to juggle, say, a new language and a new framework and new cloud infrastructure all at the same time, just because AI makes it feel easier on the surface. Stick to one unknown at a time, ideally.
Right. Okay, so from the practicalities of building with AI, let's shift to maybe a more profound, maybe even unsettling area. How AI is shaping digital content and, surprisingly, human connection. There's a compelling personal story here.
Yeah, this one is quite striking. It's about a 26-year-old named Kyle. He calls himself a gooner, which is a term for someone deep into a specific kind of often extreme online porn consumption. And he found AI porn offered this new kind of excitement because it was so surreal, so customizable. But he describes it leading to more desensitization, needing even more AI to get the same effect. It really highlights a potential psychological hook.
And what are experts saying about this? Addiction specialists.
Well, therapists like Lior Ram see AI porn not necessarily as causing addiction itself, but as magnifying existing vulnerabilities. If someone already has tendencies towards, say, compulsive sexual behavior disorder, even if that diagnosis itself is debated, AI can amplify those issues.
So it pours fuel on an existing fire, potentially.
That seems to be the concern among many professionals, yes. The tech isn't inherently bad, but it can definitely exacerbate underlying problems for some people.
And what about the broader impact on relationships, for instance?
That's a major concern raised by therapists like Ross Crothers and Monica Ellis-Addy. They worry that AI porn could lead people to avoid real intimacy, fostering a kind of faux intimacy with AI instead.
Like a substitute that feels safer but isn't real connection.
Exactly. And this could create distance in actual relationships, which Kyle apparently experienced himself. It's a significant potential societal consequence.
And beyond these individual stories, what are the wider issues here?
Well, there are these serious ethical concerns around non-consensual deepfakes. That's apparently a $36 million a year industry already.
Wow.
We're seeing huge jumps in searches for things like hentai, especially among Gen Z, up 193% on some platforms. There's also the worry that age verification laws might inadvertently push AI porn creation into people's homes, making it harder to regulate.
Right.
And then you have companion apps like Nomi and Replica, which some people are using for genuinely intimate AI relationships.
It's like a complex picture. Is there any counter-argument or nuance?
Yes, definitely. Psychotherapist Paula Hall points out again that AI porn isn't automatically problematic. It depends entirely on how it's used. And another psychotherapist, Daniel Glazer, even suggests something quite provocative. Could AI potentially act as a sort of bridge for people who are deeply afraid of real relationships, offering a connection that feels not scary?
Huh. That's an interesting perspective, a potential therapeutic application almost.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's certainly not the mainstream view, but it adds another layer to the discussion.
Okay, so let's pull back again. We've talked AI markets, coding, relationships. How does this all fit into the bigger picture of the tech industry and its influence on society? This leads us to the idea of the hype machine.
Right. And one core argument here is maybe a bit cynical, but worth considering. It's that large publicly traded tech companies often end up prioritizing their stockholders over their actual customers.
Because of market dynamics, monopolies.
Exactly. Monopolies, high switching costs. It could lead to products that are just, barely good enough. There's this concept called enshittification,
Yeah, I've heard that term.
where a platform slowly degrades its user experience to squeeze out more value, making it harder and harder to leave.
And hype plays a role in this.
A huge role, according to this perspective. Hype becomes the business model. Think of Meta's big pivot to AI right after the metaverse kind of fizzled, costing them, what, $46.5 billion?
Right.
That hype is aimed at convincing investors there's still massive value and growth potential, even if the actual product isn't quite there yet, or even if it causes user frustration, like forced chatbots in WhatsApp or Instagram, or maybe LLM coding tools that promise productivity but sometimes deliver hallucinations.
And AI is particularly suited to this hype cycle.
The argument is yes, because AI requires such massive resources, compute power, vast amounts of data. That creates incredibly high barriers to entry.
So it naturally favors the established giants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for them to maintain or even expand their dominance, fueled by the hype around the technology's potential.
Okay, speaking of influence and big tech,
Yeah.
let's talk about Silicon Valley's relationship with Washington, D.C. That seems to be shifting too, especially concerning the Republican Party.
It definitely is. We're seeing some interesting alignments. For instance, Trump has an AI action plan. The stated goals are to roll back regulations, speed up innovation.
Okay.
He's also talked a lot about woke AI, though what that means precisely isn't always clear. And his plan includes a pretty controversial proposal to redefine fair use for content used to train AI models.
Controversial mainly for creators, I imagine.
Yes, artists, writers, musicians are definitely concerned. And just to be clear, we're reporting what the sources say here, not taking a side on these policies.
Understood. And there's this pay-to-play dynamic emerging.
Seems like it. Crypto firms, for example, have reportedly gotten better banking access under the Trump administration, which has been more crypto-friendly.
Okay.
And this is often contrasted with how many tech leaders feel about the current Biden administration, seeing that relationship as more broken, partly due to antitrust scrutiny and investigations.
Interesting. And what about personalities? Has the approach to tech figures changed?
Well, the sources suggest Republicans learned something from Elon Musk's very public, sometimes erratic, behavior. Some apparently see his style as a drag on the party brand.
So they prefer?
Donors like Peter Thiel, perhaps, people who exert influence more quietly behind the scenes. The idea being, let the politicians be the public face. not necessarily the donors.
Right. And crypto money is playing a specific role here.
Apparently so. Crypto donations have been useful and flexible for Republicans, sometimes funding things totally unrelated to crypto itself. It acts as a sort of crypto glue, keeping parts of the tech world connected to the political sphere.
Okay. Shifting from political influence to another kind of battle, creative freedom in gaming, there's this issue of financial censorship.
Yes, this is a really worrying trend for many creators. Groups, often conservative ones like Australia's Collective Shout, are targeting payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, Stripe,
Targeting them how?
by pressuring them to block payments or denex platforms that host NSFW content, like Steam or itch.io. It's basically using the financial system to enforce content rules, bypassing the platform's own moderation.
And this has a disproportionate impact.
That's what the International Game Developers Association, the IGDA, says. They argue this kind of financial censorship hits LGBTQ+ creators and creators of color hardest.
Why them specifically?
It's not explicitly stated in the summary, but one could speculate it relates to the types of themes or identities explored in their work, which might be more frequently flagged as controversial or NSFW by these pressure groups. It raises serious questions about who gets silenced.
And we're seeing real consequences for developers.
Oh yeah. There's the example of a horror game, Vile, Exhumed, getting banned just for implied sexual content. And itch.io had to de-index over 20,000 adult games just to keep its payment processing functional.
20,000, that's huge.
It shows the immense pressure these platforms face. Comply or risk losing your ability to process payments, which is existential.
But gamers aren't just taking this quietly.
No, they're pushing back, organizing, signing petitions, some with hundreds of thousands of signatures. Their argument is that financial companies shouldn't be censoring legal, fictional content or stifling creative freedom.
Right.
And there was a really pointed comment in one source asking why simulated, say, incest or rape in a mainstream movie is often okay, but similar themes in digital art or games get demonized. It points to a real inconsistency, a complex double standard in how we treat different forms of media.
That's a powerful point. So, okay, connecting all these threads, hype, influence, censorship. How does this relate to how we value things culturally? Our final source looks at this through the lens of the art market.
Yeah, it draws a really interesting parallel. For about 25 years, there's been this push to financialize art, treat it purely as an alternative asset class.
Like stocks or bonds, but paintings.
Kind of. Think art investment funds, fractional ownership like through Masterworks, art lending. All these mechanisms designed to treat art purely as a financial instrument.
And has it worked as an investment strategy?
Well, the sources suggest. Not really. It's largely failed to deliver significant returns for most people. The market struggled, values can feel distorted.
Why hasn't it worked?
A collector named Shane Ackroyd summed it up well. He said, "The math doesn't hold for art as investment. There's a lack of liquidity. It's hard to sell quickly. Valuation is incredibly subjective, and you need enormous capital to even play the game seriously."
So basically, it's just not a very good financial asset compared to other options.
Pretty much. He suggested there are much surer and easier ways to invest. It feels like trying to force art into a purely financial box just doesn't quite fit. The value system is different.
So if selling art purely as an asset isn't working, what's the proposed alternative?
The pivot proposed is interesting. Stop selling it as an investment and instead sell it as an Instagrammable, sapiosexy pleasure for the wealthy.
Sapiosexy, meaning?
Attracted to intelligence, sophistication. So focus on hedonic pricing.
Hedonic pricing.
Yeah, where the value comes from the pleasure, the social status, the cultural engagement the buyer gets from owning the art, not its potential resale value. It's about the experience, the clout, the intellectual enjoyment.
So shifting from transactional value to cultural and personal value.
Exactly. It's a complete rethink valuing art for the sophisticated enjoyment and social signaling it provides, rather than as just another line item in an investment portfolio. A fascinating reflection of broader trends, perhaps.
Wow. What a landscape we've covered today. From the sheer speed of AI development and market shifts.
Right, the anthropic rise, the infrastructure race.
To these really deep, sometimes unsettling impacts on how we work, how we relate to each other, even how we define value and allow creative expression.
Yeah, there's this constant tension, isn't there? Incredible innovation happening, but also these complex, challenging ripple effects through society.
And for you, the Pythonist programmer, navigating this as a software engineering consultant, it's a lot. We saw how sticking to boring technology might actually be smart when using AI.
Understanding the foundations.
And how easily height can sometimes drive the narrative more than the actual product in the tech world.
It's a tricky balance.
So here's something for you to chew on. How do you personally balance that constant push for innovation, for growth, with the ethical side, the responsibilities that come with building these powerful new systems?
Especially, yeah, when those lines between reality and simulation, between genuine connection and faux intimacy, between influence and manipulation seem to be getting blurrier all the time.
What's the true value you're aiming to create? For your clients, sure, but also for society. What does that look like beyond just efficiency or the bottom line?
It's a big question, definitely something worth pondering as you continue building the future.
Absolutely. Well, that's our deep dive for this week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great discussion.
We'll catch you on the next one.